What if I told you that the condition affecting 1 in 8 women has been completely misunderstood for decades? And that this misunderstanding has led to millions of women suffering unnecessarily. Today, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of my own personal journey regarding this and how I'm feeling more alive in my 40s than I ever have before. And I want to talk to you guys about this new medical revelation that's changing everything that we thought we knew about women's health. And men, you need to listen to this too. You probably have a wife, daughter, niece, cousin, someone that's going to need to hear this message today. And I know this one is going to give you hope. Welcome to Strength for Generations, the go-to podcast for Christian families who want to build strength, restore energy, and deepen connection with God at the center. I'm Christa Baker, Christian health coach, wife, mom, and co-founder of Baker Family Fitness. I'm here to help you honor God with your health and bring peace back to the process, to simplify what it means to build strength in your body, renew your mind, and care for your spirit, all without losing precious time with your family. So grab your coffee and your ribeye, and let's do this His way. In our last episode, 57, we talked about how trauma literally rewrites your body's operating system and how it affects every cell, every hormone, every system. And today I'm getting raw and honest about my own health journey. Because if you're a woman listening and you feel like your body has betrayed you, I need you to know something. I have been exactly where you are. And if you're a man listening, you probably know a woman that needs this message. I'm going to take you back to my younger years. We're going a little way back, playback. So from the time I was 15, my monthly cycles were debilitating. I'm talking about pain so severe that I would just be on the floor, curled in a ball. I had to tell potential employers during job interviews that I would need 1 to 2 days off every month. If my shift was on that day, that I would most likely be calling in because I wouldn't be able to function. Imagine being 20 years old and having to tell that in an interview. It was pretty embarrassing. I connected a little bit of shame to that as well. Doctors wanted to put me on the pill to regulate my cycles, to fix my hormones, to make this feel better. I was only 15 when they tried to give me that. And I remember my dad even saying, there's no way, you don't need that. And my sister, when I did try it, I remember her saying, you're really terrible when you're on this thing. I didn't stay on it very long. It was very temporary. And I did not like how my body felt. I just thought that that was the answer. That's what my doctor told me I needed to do. Nobody ever told me why my body was doing this. They just make it seem like, hey, it's normal. These are normal things. But not a lot of them were going through what I was going through. And I was like, why am I so different? And as I got older, I started this massive exploration into movement and fitness. I was searching for something that could help me understand what was happening in my body. And I dove into learning about different training styles. I was fascinated by sport-specific training. I learned about Olympic lifting techniques. I studied powerlifting, how to build real functional strength. I was going to boxing gyms and getting into more technical aspects of boxing training. I learned kickboxing. I love the combination of power and precision. I tried some athletic conditioning and learned about training athletes for performance. I was having so much fun with these different movement styles because they made me feel strong and capable. I wasn't super athletic. I wasn't on any teams or anything like that. But I was also desperately trying to fix what I thought what was wrong with me inside my organs. I didn't know. I couldn't figure it out. I remember when I was 21, I became a certified yoga instructor because everyone said yoga would help me with my health issues, or it would help me with the breathing and keep me flexible. And I learned about all these different modalities that did not feel right for me. I was not aligned. Remember, I wasn't saved at this time. And so I didn't understand the whole religious aspect to it, but I was immersed in it and I was there. And it is a very spiritual practice. I never felt fully aligned with it. I just wanted to learn the movements because it made me feel like I was stretched well, and I liked doing back arches, and because I was an ex-gymnast, I was good at that stuff. The philosophy and approach did not resonate with who I was, just didn't feel like me. I was definitely more drawn to the strength training and like the athletic performance side of movement. That's where I felt a little bit more like myself. At the same time, I dove deep into learning about nutrition's impact on health. I had this black and white thinking of food, good food versus bad food. I would eat really well, and then I'd have these massive cheat days. Do you ever hear about those good old cheat days? I was constantly battling, things in my body that made me feel insecure and comparing myself to everyone around me. And through all of this, my periods were still absolutely terrible. So even though I was learning all of the stuff on movement, all of the stuff about nutrition and food, I didn't understand then what I understand now about God's design for food and our bodies. I didn't have the faith foundation to see that my body wasn't the enemy. And then in 2020, I got really sick. And that illness triggered something in my body that sent me into what felt like a complete system failure. So I did end up working with multiple specialists. I had a lung specialist because I couldn't get a full breath. They called it long COVID. And he also told me I had asthma. I had a hormone specialist who I connected with. I really liked her a lot. She was really wise. Even as I was explaining what I had been through my whole life, she's like, oh, you don't even have to tell me. She's like, you've got low progesterone and this and this and this. And I was like, well, most of the time doctors won't even test for all this stuff. And she's like, yep, let's do all your labs. And then she made some other connections, but the answer was to take synthetic hormones. Was booked to go to a migraine specialist because I had a migraine every month for 3 days. Like clockwork, as soon as my cycle started. And I would have to plan my entire life around these days that were going to come up on the calendar. I had a skin specialist because my skin was breaking out, high histamine, massive flare-ups. So a histamine response, think like allergic response, think a trigger. Some people have histamine responses, let's say to the cold, and their skin breaks out into hives. Like that is a histamine issue. Mine was on my neck and my entire face. And it did go all over my body at different points as well. And I just said, oh, you just are super sensitive. I've gone to doctors that were double board certified, good at what they did, but nobody could figure out what was happening in my body. I remember going to this herbalist and she tested me with this, I don't know, this testing machine that she had. And she basically said, your body reacts to everything. And she couldn't explain why. And I got the $700 herb tinctures that I thought were going to help fix the issue. And honestly, I was like, why? This doesn't make sense. Why does this all keep happening? And then I learned about the iron dysregulation. And that changed my entire world. Like, I really want to scream this from the mountaintops because it's been such a game changer in my life. Without understanding iron regulation, I would not feel as good as I do right now. I feel so alive. Sure, I have tired days, but that's just like I'm overworked or, maybe a little bit worried about some situations that I'm facing. But I physically feel so alive. And I'm telling you, I have never felt like this in my entire life. And I'm in my 40s. I'm going to be 47 this month. And so when iron has been dysregulated for so long, your cells aren't responding properly to anything. Your hormones can't function correctly. Your immune system gets confused. Your nervous system stays in a state of stress. And then everything we talked about in last episode about trauma affecting your body, well, iron dysregulation can create or worsen all of those same symptoms. So I wanted to make sure that we did cover this today because, yes, there's the trauma stuff that we have to work through, any pain, any issues, anything that's kind of taken root. But we also need to make sure that the plan that we have to heal our organs and take care of our bodies well has to make sense. It has to include organs, movement, nutrition, mindset, all of those really awesome things. So I don't know if you guys know about this, but they've officially renamed PCOS and is now called PMOS. It's a metabolic ovarian syndrome, and this affects 1 in 8 women. I actually think it's probably higher than that because the more women I talk to, oh my goodness, they have so many issues when it comes to their reproductive organs. The term PCOS was inaccurate. The old name obscured the real issues, which are diverse endocrine and metabolic features. And so now they're saying it is an insulin issue. And I've been saying that for a long time. I'm like, well, why don't we get to the root of what we're doing instead of just diagnosing people and these poor women that are having issues like reproducing or traumatic experiences just with having, severe blood loss and being diagnosed and then just being labeled this thing. We know now that it affects your endocrine system, your metabolic system, and your ovarian function. This name change came from a global consensus process involving 56 leading organizations and over 14,000 people with this condition and healthcare professionals. So if you've been told that you have PCOS, or if you're struggling with irregular periods, weight gain, fatigue, mood issues, or insulin resistance, this actually really matters for you. Because when we understand what's happening in your body, we can actually address the root causes instead of just managing symptoms. And here's where iron dysregulation connects to all of this. Iron affects your insulin sensitivity. It affects your ability to metabolize nutrients. It affects your hormone production. When iron is dysregulated, it creates the exact metabolic dysfunction that we see in PMOS. This is why traditional PCOS treatments often fail. They're not addressing the underlying iron issue. And I want you to understand where I am now compared to where I was. I no longer dread my monthly cycles. I'm 47 this year, and I'm definitely right in the middle of perimenopause. If I look at my family history, it's probably going to be until I'm about 53, between 53 and 55. Because we look at kind of like our mother's history, maybe some of our aunts and stuff. But typically it's like, well, if your mom went through this experience at this time, you're probably going to be close to it. Typically. Okay. And so I, for so long, planned my life around this monthly cycle. I was laughed at by doctors. I remember my doctor laughing at me because I told him I need to do something about these migraines. And he's like, oh, well, I can get you in with the migraine specialist. And I was like, well, that's going to take a year. That's 3 days times 12. That's 36 more days this year that I won't have with my family. That's not a good enough answer for me. And so that's obviously why I started digging deep into what was going on. I no longer dread my monthly cycle. I honestly, every month now, I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay, cool. And everyone I talk to, perimenopause is like, I'm living in hell right now. I hear this from women every single day. Oh, it's just the typical brain fog. Oh, it's just the typical this. It's just the typical that. I have no energy. I'm tired all the time. I don't know what's going on. And I finally have energy that feels sustainable. My skin, totally cleared up. My mood, oh my goodness. I find I'm so much more calmer. Like I don't get cranky or moody with my kids. It's like maybe once or twice a month where I notice, some old patterns of cranky Christa kick in. But I'm usually like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, no problem. Feeling like really calm. And I didn't always feel like that. I had that trauma stuff before, but physically, like I just felt very unwell, even though I've always provided nutrients in my body. I've always moved. I've always focused on, strength training, and I enjoy those things. But now my mood is stable. My relationship with food is healthy. I am rooted in understanding God's design and how He wants me to nourish my body. And I found my way back to the movement styles that actually make me feel like myself, even though I have a tear in my hip. And yes, it's now officially 2 full years that I've been waiting for surgery, or this whole process started. And so God willing, I will get an appointment in the fall and I will get this repair taken care of so I can get back to like really doing the athletic training that I would like to. And I am not perfect. I am not at war with my body anymore though. And that feels really good for me to be able to say that. So if you're listening to this and you're in that place I used to be, I want you to know that there is hope. So before I give you some practical strategies, I need to tell you about episode 28. Every woman needs to go and listen to that episode. Men, listen to it for your wives. If you have a wife that struggles every single month, it's affecting you. It's affecting your relationship. It's affecting how she shows up as a wife, a mom, how she's caring for herself. She is just pushing through, but she shouldn't have to. If you're trying to get pregnant, listen to episode 28. If you're having a baby, listen to episode 28. If you're raising kids and you want to understand how to support their health, listen to episode 28. If you're starting over with your health journey at any age, listen to episode 28. It's foundational information that I wish every woman had access to. And then I also want you to go back and listen to the episode. So Piotr Slowinski is the guest that shares and talks to us about what he researched for many, many, many years. You can go ahead and listen to it. I'm not going to give you the full overview. But you can also go back and listen to, I think it's episode 22, where it's me, him, and my husband on a call. And that was the original call I did with him to start to understand this deep-rooted physical organ health issue. He walks through everything that's happening in our body from a scientific perspective. And this has helped so many of my clients finally understand their symptoms and find freedom. I oftentimes, while I'm working with somebody, I start figuring out, okay, what are we currently doing? We start making some changes. I start getting them, on a good pathway of moving and grooving and understanding the impact that the food's having in their home. And we start making these beautiful changes. And then we'll do our blood labs to have a whole overview of that done. And then we can figure out, hey, we've got some organ health issues. We've got to facilitate. We've got to steer the ship a little differently if we know that we've got issues going on in our organs. So if you have something like PCOS, terrible perimenopause, you've been told that you have insulin issues, gestational diabetes when you were pregnant, all of those things we're getting to the root of. Okay. So let's talk about what we can actually do with this information. We have to get the right lab testing. Most doctors are not testing for iron dysregulation properly. They're just looking at basic iron studies, and that's not enough. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to my website, bakerfamilyfitness.com/glucoferrin. Glucoferrin is spelled GLUCOFERRIN. You won't see the full website pop up yet. It's in the middle of being edited, and I'm reviewing a lot of different things on my site, but that page is up and ready. And there's a form on that page that you can go to and fill it out. On there, there's a list of labs that you can take to your doctor and just say, here, I need these labs ran. I want to see what's going on inside my organs. And especially if you're 30, I would want to have stuff like this done as a baseline. If you're, let's say you're younger, or if you've had these issues yourself, men and women, I really truly believe they need to have all those done. And then you're going to fill out the form to get booked in. So I can get you connected with the proper person to read your labs. Okay. But we need to know what's happening in your body before you can fix it. So strategy 2, we're going to address the non-heme iron sources. Go through my podcast. There's lots of episodes where I've talked about the foods that are heme and non-heme. And we have to look at the non-heme iron sources in your diet and your supplements. Most fortified foods and iron supplements containing non-heme iron that your body can't regulate properly. So we're going to start removing these problematic sources and focus on heme iron from quality animal proteins instead. This alone is going to make a huge difference in how you feel. And don't worry, my friends, meat is not your enemy. Okay. Strategy 3, understand insulin and food. So I teach about all of these things in my program and how food affects your entire endocrine and metabolic system. So we've got this buildup of iron dysregulation in our organs. Therefore, our organs can't actually do what they're supposed to do. And so when we start to understand how different foods impact our blood sugar and our hormones and our energy levels, remember I said earlier that I have had people that have come in that literally they're still good with, more carbs and all these different things. And we start moving stuff around and their body isn't dealing with a lot of these metabolic issues. I'm talking to the person that has the metabolic issues right now. I don't teach restriction or perfection. I teach about understanding God's design for nourishing our bodies and working with that design instead of against it. I didn't have a faith foundation when I was struggling the most with my health. But now I understand that my body is fearfully and wonderfully made. The symptoms I was experiencing weren't signs that my body was broken. They were signs that my body was trying to communicate with me. When we ignore those signals or just suppress them with medication, we miss the opportunity to actually address what our body needs. God's designed our bodies to heal and to thrive when we give them what they need. Sometimes that means addressing the trauma. Sometimes that means fixing nutrient deficiencies. Sometimes that means changing how we think about food and stress and rest. But it always means listening to what our body is telling us and responding with wisdom and care. And for every woman listening, I want you to understand that everything is connected. The trauma we talked about affects your iron absorption. Iron dysregulation affects your hormones. Hormone imbalances affect your mood and energy. Poor energy affects your ability to make good choices about food and movement. And the cycle continues. But when you start addressing these issues at the root level, the positive changes compound too. We know that your energy will be improved. You're going to be able to manage your stress better. You're going to be able to sleep better. You're going to feel more balanced in your hormones. Listen, if you are a woman going through perimenopause right now, you are being heavily marketed to. I know, I'm one of them. I'm like this target. And I'm like, I don't need all that stuff. I actually am thriving during perimenopause because I've had professionals come into my life that have actually know what to do. And now I get to do that for others. And it's a beautiful process. So I want you to make sure you go back and listen to episode 28 if you haven't already. If you want to learn more about the trauma stuff, that was episode 57 if you missed it. And they'll help you give foundation to help you understand what's going on in your body. Just remember, guys, knowledge is power. You can't fix what you don't understand. I want you to start paying attention to how different foods make you feel. How's your energy? How's your mood? How's your sleep that night? Your body is constantly giving you information about what it needs and what it doesn't. We just have to start listening. You don't have to suffer in silence anymore. You don't have to accept that feeling terrible is just part of being a woman. There are answers and there is hope. And there are people who understand what you're going through and want to help. So make sure that you message me about really anything at this point. I'm an open book. You want to message me on Instagram or Facebook, that's totally fine. I do have the form on my website. Eventually this full website will get done, but we've got lots going on over here. I just want you all to feel amazing. Your body is designed to thrive. And I'm here to help you get there if you need me. If this episode's helped you, I want you to share it with someone who needs to hear this message, my friends. We don't want to hold on to this information. We know that oftentimes we can speak life into someone's situation. I've been able to do this for a lot of people, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that with anybody that trusts me enough to do that. And so if that is you, feel free to reach out. Until then, keep building strength for generations. Thanks for tuning in to Strength for Generations. If this podcast encouraged you, it would be a blessing if you took a quick minute to leave a 5-star review. It helps more families hear this message and find hope for their health and faith journey. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. And if you feel led to share this episode, text it to a friend, post it to your stories, or send it to someone on your heart. God might use it to encourage someone who really needs it today. And don't forget to eat steaks, lift weights, love Jesus, and keep doing it His way.